Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Papillion La Vista Community Schools Board of Education meeting for October 24th, 2022. Section 1, call to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you all. Roll call, please.
Ms. Fisher? Here. Mr. Lotus?
Here.
Mr. Bailey?
Here.
Ms. Witt?
Here.
Mr. Madden?
Here.
Dr. Foya?
Present.
All present.
Thank you. I'd like to give mention that the open meetings law is posted at the entrance to our boardroom. All right, that concludes Section 1, call to order. Moving on to Section 2, communications. I'd like to welcome again our military advisor, Colonel Cooley.
Welcome, Colonel.
Welcome, Colonel.
Sir. Good evening. It's great to be back. Apologize in advance. I'm just getting my voice back. So. It's been a busy month since I was here last. All of our jets are back, so very happy to say that we had complete success in getting all the aircraft back. We are just in the process of rehabilitating the Lincoln site now, which is pretty minor at this point. A few more loads of equipment, but we had over 100 truckloads of equipment brought back as well. You asked last time, sir, what was the first jet to land? 127, TC-135, 127 was the first to land. We still have our Aero Club, Cessnas and Pipers down at Plattsmouth, and they'll be down there for probably another month, but that's just an estimate at this point. But back to more or less business as usual. We have alert missions for the NAOC with the 595th Command and Control Group, as well as Looking Glass with the TACAMU aircraft. So if you've been around base, you may have heard some of the klaxons for as we exercise those important functions. Also, the ramp construction is not going to be 100% complete for a while, so the concrete is done. There is ongoing works at the Command and Control Group for the NAOC. Jet their hangar is still under construction, plus, of course, the rest of the flood work. Now, the runway project, we will be going through site rehabilitation through probably April. Mostly making sure the land, the ground is erosion proof. We have some other utilities works going on, but for the most part, it's completely done. We're expecting General Cotton going to take command of U.S. Strategic Command. Unofficial or still not a definite date, but we're expecting General Cotton to arrive the first week of December, and Admiral Richard will retire. We had a celebration dinner for him last week, which was a lot of fun to help celebrate his 40 years of service. So, wishing him safe travels and the best of luck, and then of course welcoming General Cotton as he arrives. We have an upcoming exercise that will be pulling some people around the country. We'll be sending some folks to Nevada, and then we'll be exercising on base as well. So that will be make some long days for a good portion of the 55th Wing personnel. Also, we had the Air Force Ball at the beginning of the month, so it was a lot of fun to go downtown and celebrate the Air Force. Really looking forward to Halloween events on base. I know my kids got their costumes squared away last night. Quite a few events happening with the 27th of October, the Halloween extravaganza at the Youth Center from 5:30 to 8. Very big event, expecting over 2,000 participants. We have the Base Exchange Trick or Treat on the 28th from 4 to 6. And also on the 28th, the Fear Fest Haunted House, which is put on by the communications group in the old hospital, which is now their group headquarters. And that will be going from 7 to 10 p.m. And we'll also go the following night on 29 October. Also on the 29th, we have the Zombie Run, fun run going at 4 o'clock on the parade field, and the chapel will be hosting their Trunk or Treat event from 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock in that area right next door at the SAC Chapel. But it's been a very busy few months. We're definitely looking grateful that all of our airmen back, all the aircraft returned safely. The Lincoln partnership, while concluded, it was fantastic. The National Guard and the Lincoln Airport Authority took such amazing care of us out there. But we were moving 750 airmen a day, every day, out to Lincoln, and very happy that we can give those airmen some time back with for themselves and with their families. Pending any questions, that's all I have.
I just wondered if you could bring a picture of the zombie run next time.
I think that can be arranged, ma'am.
Colonel, that first jet that touched down on the newly completed runway, was Colonel Thompson on that jet, perchance?
Yes, she was, as well as General Mark Kelly, the commander of Air Combat Command. So Major Brian Ross was the pilot, and so he was under a little bit of pressure to put it down exactly. Yeah, happily he succeeded.
Outstanding. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
It is great hearing the planes again, though, I have to say. You don't need to sit back down, but it is great hearing the planes return. My puppies are a little bit concerned, though, because they've not heard that, and the jets were flying over, and they're like trying to figure out where the noise was coming from. But it's, for someone who loves the planes, it was great to hear them.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Colonel.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes item A under Section 2 Communication. Moving on to item B. Ms. Iman, I believe.
Thank you, Mr. Lotus. While Ms. Iman is approaching the chair, we took the somewhat unusual step of adding an agenda item to discuss an unauthorized post that was made to the district's social media outlets. Ms. Iman, I've asked Ms. Iman to give an accounting of not only what happened, but the specific steps that the district has taken to make sure this doesn't happen again. Hear me say this very clearly. What happened is unacceptable. This district does not take positions on candidates, does not take positions on ballot initiatives. That's simply unacceptable, and our taxpayers have a right to know exactly where we stand on that. And Ms. Iman, if you could pick up the ball from there and tell us a little bit about what happened, we would be deeply grateful.
Absolutely. Let me kind of explain exactly how it came to our attention. I was made aware, I saw an email about 10:45 p.m. On Sunday evening. That would have been the 16th of October, so it was a week ago from yesterday, that basically explained that there was a retweet of a private citizen's post about endorsing some of the political candidates for school board, and it was retweeted onto the Twitter account of Papillion La Vista South, which absolutely is unacceptable. We took immediate steps to get it removed. I can tell you it was gone from both the Twitter account and the district app by 8:15 a.m. the next morning. And again, it was 10:45 when we first became aware of the situation. So first thing Monday, we took steps into the investigation. How did this happen? How did this show up on our school-sponsored media or Twitter account? The first thing we did was I changed the password to the Twitter account and basically kicked everybody out of it so that no one had access to the Twitter account, because at that time we didn't know who posted it or how it was retweeted onto the account. So it was just myself and Tyler and Lucas that would have had access at that point. We then also worked directly with Twitter to collect data on, what could they tell us about how it got posted, what time it got posted, all of those sorts of things. Through that investigation, we determined that it was an unauthorized user. It wasn't one of our current school district employees, but it was an unauthorized user that had access to the account previously, but no longer was supposed to have access to that account. At that time, we also contacted our district legal counsel to say what are the steps and what are the courses that we need to make sure that we're prepared to handle. We took a two-prong approach to our next set of action steps. One of our priorities, and probably our biggest priority, was really to make sure that all of our accounts were secure. So suddenly we became aware that there were unauthorized users that might have access to our accounts, so we wanted to make sure that that wasn't the case with any other accounts that we have. We have a lot more than that, but we have 63 social media accounts between Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram that are directly tied to our schools. And then we have lots of teachers and clubs and different organizations that also have Twitter accounts that are tied to us. But we instantly shut down those 63 social media accounts. So all Facebook, and by that I mean we removed access, so no one had access to any of those 63 accounts except for people in my office and Mr. Bingham. And then we started with the communication of actions. We started with our admin team and talked with our admin team. We talked about security guidelines and what we needed to do. We slowly gave them access back to their accounts, but then we knew it was just our office and the building principal that had direct access to any of those 63 accounts. We also reviewed with them again just to make certain, and they were all aware, but to remind them again of our political action do's and don'ts, and that it is a policy violation to do anything political with school-funded, tax dollar-funded resources. We also sent a message out. That was Tuesday morning. We have our staff newsletter, the lead story in our staff newsletter that went out, reminded all staff of the political do's and don'ts, what you can and cannot do in relation to political activities. We updated all of you on the progress of where we were. And then that Tuesday, we also emailed the other 3 candidates and updated them on where we were and informed them that we had discovered that it was an unauthorized user. Lessons learned, I would say there's 2 major lessons learned. We go through that passwords need to be changed on a regular basis. We now, and we know we can do it because we just did it last week, we will change all of the passwords from the communications office. All passwords need to be registered with the communications team. So we'll just make that an annual event. So every year those passwords are being changed to make certain that there are no unauthorized users that have access to them. So we'll start fresh every year. The other big lesson learned was our social media accounts feed into our district app. And that's a tool. If you think back to when we first formed the app, the goal of the app is so as a parent you have a one-stop shop. You don't have to go to the social media accounts, but you can go to the app. You can get all of your notifications from your teacher, all of your notifications from your school, from the district, and you can see all of your school's social media accounts. It wasn't until this event happened that we discovered that when you delete one of those accounts you would delete a post, a school district post, it doesn't pull in comments. So the only thing that is pulled into the apps are the posts that we make as school district officials. But when you delete that from Twitter, so in this case, when it was deleted from Twitter, it doesn't automatically delete it from the app. And that was a huge lesson learned. I didn't really discover that until about 7 a.m. on Monday morning, that it wasn't automatically deleted from our app. We did, after a lot of research and phone calls to customer service, we did get it deleted from the app. We were on the verge of just shutting down the app, actually, because we couldn't figure out how to get it out, but then we did get it out. So that's a huge lesson learned. Now we know if we're ever in this situation and something gets posted to one of our school district social media accounts, we have to physically go into the app and remove it because it is there. So those were 2 of the major lessons learned. With that in mind, I'd be glad to answer any of your questions or fill in any blanks that maybe I didn't cover.
I guess the question I have is, or maybe it's more of a thought. Clearly, someone, you said unauthorized user, was either someone who has left the district by either retiring or quitting or fired or whatever the case was. So is there, I don't know if you all have something that you do when somebody leaves the district, like a checklist or something. Can you add that to that checklist, or have you to say, hey, make sure they're no longer on any of these so they don't either inadvertently or purposefully put out something like this that shouldn't be put out?
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing, and Katie, you can address kind of what you've done also, but the biggest thing is that they should be removed from social media accounts at the end of every year and at the beginning of every year. We should review that. That is part of our district protocols. We have a 24-page guidelines on social media, and so we should make sure that those individuals are removed. Unfortunately, that just didn't happen in this situation. And go ahead, Katie.
Oh, I was just going to say, we have had asked for administrators and secretaries to add that as a checkout item, and not even just for the school type of items, but for, any type of social media that people are keeping. Just a couple of weeks ago, Annette did a presentation on those sorts of things to our administration, talking about, if it's a club, if it's a sport, whatever it is, it needs to get into the correct hands of the next person too. So that's in the works as well, and has been.
And maybe to piggyback off of Mr. Bailey's, are people added as authorized users, or they are just given the logins to it?
So it depends upon the account. So with Facebook, there's multiple administrators. So someone from my team is an administrator. The building principal is always an administrator, and then they add other administrators. With Twitter, that's not possible. So it's just a username and password that individuals have. So if you have 2 or 3 people at your building that are responsible for posting to Twitter, then there's 2 or 3 people that have that same username and password. So it's a combination depending upon the platform.
And that's the one that makes it tough, because even if there's no authorization to revoke from those people, you have to change the password when someone with access should no longer have access, and staying on top of it with, all 64 or 68.
Absolutely. And that's why in our protocols now, we will just do that as part of the communications department. At the end of the year, we'll change all of those passwords and start fresh again, at least with those 63 accounts.
And I also want to thank you for the presentation and the deep dive. I understand people's frustration. I was frustrated when I saw it. I think it was inappropriate. I also think when I was looking at the 1407 policy, I think that we should look at updating this, because this seems to be more about sharing materials on district property. There's really nothing related to, the day and age of social media sharing. So I think when it comes around to updating this policy, which will probably in a couple months or so we would do that, we should look to add some language in there potentially around the social media usage around politics as well.
I think that's a great suggestion. In fact, I think usually I do the 1000 series in January.
Yeah.
So it's coming right up. So absolutely, I think that's a great suggestion.
Thanks.
Yep. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? All right, thank you, Ms. Hyman. All right, moving on to item C, our public comment for items not on tonight's agenda. Again, public comment for items not on tonight's agenda shall not exceed 30 minutes unless a majority vote of the board approves extending allocated time. Each individual may not exceed 3 minutes. And when I call your name, please come up to the microphone and give your name and address for the record. Ms. Branco has the timer for folks that may be new to our meetings. The first beeps go off at 2 minutes and 15 seconds, kind of giving you that 45-second wrap-up time, with the final beeps going at 3 minutes. I will also monitor time just in case we have any clock malfunctions, to be fair to everyone. All right, first up this evening for public comment for items not on tonight's agenda is Mr. Mike Erdman.
Good evening, everyone.
Welcome.
My name is Mike Erdman, 926 South Madison Street, Papillion, Nebraska. Just want to preface my words tonight by saying I have been part of the community for over 50 years, seen many changes to our city and the school district. I'm a product of the school system, graduating in 1977. But over the past several years, I've seen behavior towards our school board that concerns me deeply. My perspective tonight is based on decades of observations. I came to speak tonight before the upcoming election because I want to thank everyone on the current board for all their hard work and leadership of the district. You continue to make the district, I feel, the best in the state, if not the region, and maybe even in the U.S. You have helped guide the district through extraordinary times, from unprecedented growth, teacher shortages, character attacks, and a pandemic. You've seen the rise of a vocal minority, people that will bring concealed firearms to a meeting, some pushing a mission which appears to be code for a personal agenda, others that speak at meetings with finger pointing, making derogatory comments towards the board members and painting a picture of distrust between the board, the teachers, and the community. Others that make numerous public records requests, a recall attempt that failed, lawsuits that have been proved to be unfounded, and so on. All of these activities seem to be designed to create hostility and distract and stifle this board, all of which undermines our school district when everyone's goal should be to improve it through collaboration. These types of activities and tactics border on harassment and intimidation, maybe even bullying, depending on one's perspective. Isn't that something we would never accept from our children? But on occasion, I see adults put it on full display here. I find it quite concerning for the future of our district. What I have witnessed divides the community, not unify it. But in the face of all that, the board managed to navigate all these issues with professionalism and integrity, the true mark of leadership. I have respect for the way the board conducts itself, conducts the business of the school district, and how you represent us. So please continue to keep the interests of our district and the students first. Do not cave to special interest on either side of the aisle. In closing, I want to say thank you. And I, for one, understand that you represent a community with many facets, and not all may be happy with decisions that have to be made. Even I'm not happy sometimes. But please know there is a broad community support and respect for the board and its current members. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your vigilance in the face of extraordinary circumstances. Thank you for continuing to guide our district and make it the best it can be. You all should be applauded. Again, thank you, all of you. Job well done this term, and I appreciate all of your work and how you represent our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up for public comment for items not on tonight's agenda, Ms. Patty Conway-Boyd. Welcome.
Thanks. Pat Conway Boyd, 1004 West Centennial Road. I'm here tonight because I received an email exchange between a parent and school district regarding the concerns of a biological girl using the boys' restrooms. Based on the email exchange, this is an acceptable practice in this district. I do not know if the Board of Education is aware of this practice and they are condoning this practice, or whether they are unaware of this practice. It is the Board of Education's, if it is the Board of Education's position that biological boys should be using girls' restrooms and biological girls should be using boys' restrooms, you need to be transparent to parents and the public. The board should be developing a policy either showing their support for this practice, or they should develop a policy that does not allow this practice. And if you choose not to develop a policy and this practice continues, you are in fact condoning this practice. You may believe that you have this under control at your school, but this practice does not just affect the school day. If it's a practice of this district to allow biological boys to use the girls' restrooms and biological girls to use the boys' restrooms, then any individual attending any event in our schools will be affected by this practice. This is another reason for transparency and a policy. Grown men at a school event can be standing at the urinals and a 14-year-old biological girl will wander in. Women attending an event can expect a 14 or 15-year-old boy wander into the restroom. You will have no control as to who is using these facilities and the purpose for which they are using those facilities. There are more ramifications regarding this practice than can be addressed in the 3 minutes that you're allowing me tonight. That is why there should be a vigorous debate about this issue with the public resulting in a policy at the end of that debate. It should also be noted that based on the email exchange, students that do not agree with this practice outlined above are called to the counselor's office without their parents' knowledge to discuss their lack of acceptance. One student's feelings and lifestyle are not more or less valid than another student's feelings or lifestyle. Acceptance of feelings and lifestyles should not be a one-way street. It is also my understanding that the present practice is based partly on the guidelines set forth by President Joe Biden's Justice Department. I have since reviewed those guidelines. This is a complex issue that needs total transparency. It should not be secretly threaded into the fabric of the Papillion-La Vista School District's culture without the knowledge of parents and the public. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up for public comment on items not on tonight's agenda, Ms. Lowen-Eby. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Lowen Eby. I reside at 1401 Edgewater Circle, Papillion, Nebraska, 68046. My comments are related to the phishing attempt information email that I received today. So on Monday, October 24th at 8:15 a.m., I received an email. It was forwarded, and the subject line is, "You received a voicemail message from Teresa Rolfson." I have received emails from Ms. Rolfson on several occasions because my son is a graduate at Papio South, and I would communicate with her regarding his graduation gowns and in preparation for his graduation. Okay, so I received that one email today in the morning at 9:15 a.m. I received a second email. It was forwarded from Ms. Rolfson. And it said, okay, so the first one was a voicemail message, okay, voicemail message. The second one at 9:17 a.m. this morning, and the message was forwarded, and the subject was, "You received a secure message from Ms. Rolfson." And then at 10:07 a.m., almost an hour later, I received a message from the PLCS technology at plcsschools.org. And the subject was phishing attempt information, and it reads as follows. "Good morning. You may have recently received a message from Teresa Rolfson at Papillion-La Vista South High School. The subject and contents stated that a secure message or a voicemail message was being sent to you. This account was compromised, and the message was a phishing scam. It was not sent by Teresa or the Papillion-La Vista Community Schools. Please do not click any links within the message and disregard the message if you received it. Thanks, Lucas Bingham, Director of Information Technology." So I have a couple of questions, and I don't know if I need to make a public records request or if someone will get back to me. But my first question is, the email from Mr. Bingham, it was BCC. So was I the only person affected by this phishing attempt, or were there others? The second is, how do I know that my account is secure? And my third question is, and it's more of an observation, I find it irregular that I received this message when I made a public records request requesting all unauthorized and authorized users of that Twitter account. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening.
Thank you. Last up this evening for public comments on items not on tonight's agenda, Ms. Brittany Holtmeyer. Welcome.
Hi. Brittany Holtmeyer, 2007 Ridgewood Drive. So my speech topics that I came in with, I am so uncomfortable right now, and I could cry. All of these kids that I see in this room, and I asked them if they were going to be here for the whole meeting, and they said yes. I am so uncomfortable, and what I'm about to read to you, minus some words, you should be that uncomfortable as well, because these are in your school libraries. I had emailed Miss Siri last week. Hello, just a couple of quick questions, and I believe you're the best one that would know these answers. Do we have any books in our school libraries that deal with masturbation, being molested, or touching someone inappropriately? Her response back, Brittany, thanks for reaching out. Do you have a specific title you are curious about? We provide parents access to our library database, which includes a catalog of all books. I'm enclosing a link where you can access the information. Hope you have a great weekend. It was the Go Follett site. My response. Thank you for your response. The Follett site is a frequent site I do visit. I was asking you if you were aware of such books within our school libraries that might contain that content. Thank you again and looking forward to your response. I heard nothing. So, a couple of books that are just out there. This is A Me and Earl and the Dying Girl in high school. When you start high school, a freshman, what, you're 13, 14 years old? Yeah, Earl, I'm going to eat her. Pretty sure you know what he's talking about. Do you even know how to eat? Papa Gaines never sat you down, said, son, one day you're going to have to eat that. No, but he did teach me how to eat behind. I would teach you some pea eating technique, but it's a little complicated. I would need some diagrams and whatnot. Son, I don't have time for that. I got like 20 to eat. I'm on a deadline. This is one. Let's get to the other. I was trapped. Clifton put his hand on my leg, on the inside of my thigh, grabbed the bare skin beneath the bottom of my pajama shorts. Don't. I yanked myself sideways. He laughed, put one thick hand around my neck, grabbed the elastic band of my pajama shorts with the other, stuck his hand down the back of my shorts, and this goes on and on. This is in elementary. Do you want a first grader who can read to read this book? You are bringing you are sexualizing these children. And if I were to read this book to some kid in your school at the park, I would be arrested. This is enough. Did you know that these books were in your libraries? If you did, you need to go because this is pedophilia. And if you didn't, you need to go as well.
Thank you. All right, that concludes item C, public comments for items not on tonight's agenda. Moving on to item D, under section 2 communications, our superintendent's report. Dr. Rickley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lotus, members of the board and members of the community. As always, thank you for being here this evening, and for those that are watching on YouTube, we appreciate you staying engaged with your board and our business. Wanted to first and foremost thank our community, including some people who are here with us this evening, who participated in our community forum. It was last Thursday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. The purpose of the forum was to discuss the facility proposal that we've been sharing with our staff and our community. We've hit most of our schools at this point, approximately half of our elementary buildings. And we didn't quite have the turnout that I was hoping for. I think we had approximately 31 members of the community come out, but we had a really good conversation about priorities and the future of the district and what people value in terms of the facility growth. Just as a reminder to the community, and this is on the board agenda as well, but we have our second community forum this coming Thursday at Papillion La Vista High School from 6 to 7:30, so hopefully we can see some great numbers. Also wanted to remind the community that we have a discovery tour scheduled for this Friday. These are events that we host about once a quarter in a typical year, and the purpose of these events is to bring in parents, community members, empty nesters, people that have a vested interest in this school district, and it's a pretty big time commitment. It's about a half a day. We typically have between 10 and 12 people attend these events, but they get an opportunity not only to have breakfast with their administration, but also to see our buildings in action. We typically visit between 2 and 3 schools, and then we come back and we have lunch with myself, and we answer any questions that the community has about curriculum, about our facilities, really about anything having to do with the district. So if that interests you, please reach out. We still have a little bit of space available. Also wanted to remind the board we had our second student advisory meeting of the year. Typically one of our favorite events to host. For a community that may not be aware, we have a number of advisories. We meet with teachers, we meet with classified staff, we meet with PTOs, but we meet most frequently with our students. We have 8 Monarchs and 8 Titans that we meet with once a month over at lunch. This last meeting was at Monarch. We spent some time talking about a variety of factors, but the bulk of the conversation was around the facility proposal. We shared the proposed changes across the school district, including the proposed changes at Monarch and Titan. Had a great conversation, and then Mr. Ryan and I believe Mr. Hubert graciously took the kids from Titan on a tour of some of the facilities at Monarch. They don't have the same opportunity to see the building as obviously what they have in their own backyard. So a great opportunity to hear from our students about what's important to them and moving forward. Also wanted to remind everyone we have another PLCS Community Closet event coming up on November 12th. For our community members who may not be aware, this is the second year of the PLCS Community Closet. The whole purpose really is to accept donations from our community, specifically clothing items and basically toiletry items, and help provide those items to some of our most vulnerable families. That's particularly important this time of year when the weather turns cold and the holiday season's fast approaching. So November 12th from 10 to 12 o'clock, La Vista Middle School. The particular emphasis will be on coats, winter jackets with cold weather just around the corner, but we'll accept all donations and we'll be doing some good in the community. Two other dates just to remind the board and the community. The State Ed Conference, which is held annually. It's at CHI Center November 16th through the 18th. If you have any questions about registration, please reach out to me or Kathy. And finally, for our community, we've got a general election fast approaching on November 8th. So for our incumbents as well as our 3 non-incumbents who are running, wish you the best of luck and would strongly encourage our community to get out and vote. And with that, Mr. Lotus, I would conclude my superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Rickley. All right, moving on to item E under Section 2 Communications. Any additional board comments this evening?
On this community forum Thursday, you said 7 o'clock. It's written here 6 o'clock.
Oh, Dr. Tafoya, thank you.
Or did I mishear?
No. I don't think you did. It was 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. So thank you. Let the minutes reflect. And again, for our community members, it is this Thursday, Papillion La Vista High School, 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. We do stick to that 90-minute limit. So thank you, Doc, for correcting me.
I attended the community forum. It was very well done. I appreciate the community members who attended and look forward to the one this Thursday at Papillion Monarchs so we can get a better picture and talk to a lot of parents. I love listening to them and hearing the broad variety of opinions and comments they might have. I was also able to attend on Friday night. Dr. Karen Gruber is the project manager for the Artemis, which is colonization of possibly Mars at some point in the future. And she is a graduate of Central High School. And Clay Anderson, who is now the president of SAC Museum, was there. It was a great experience to hear her and to learn about that. And it was the HAL coordinator for the La Vista Middle School invited the students and parents to come, and I was grateful to be there. It was a really interesting talk.
I also went to the forum at Papillion South. I enjoyed it. Yeah, hopefully we can get more people out to Monarchs. I enjoyed the breakout rooms. I think we had maybe like 10 people in our breakout room, which I think was the average. And I thought the facilitator did a good job. For those that don't know and are thinking about going, you get the presentation of what are the projects that the district is looking at, and then you just go in and discuss with the facilitator things you like, things you didn't like, other questions that you may have. And then I believe you guys are getting a list of all the questions and going to email answers, which, I mean, you guys had to have had, 50 questions or so just for my group. I know there was a lot. So you'll get those and you'll get the emailed responses back. So hopefully we get a good turnout there. But I enjoyed listening to the conversation, listening to what people thought the pros were, listening to where people said, in their opinions, they would make some tweaks to it. So a great conversation. And I wasn't at the last meeting, so I wasn't able to say this, but a couple weeks ago I did it was our second round of the grants committee with the Papillion La Vista Community Schools Foundation, which I always talk about. I love being on that committee. If you remember, the foundation every year does $100,000 that they budget for teacher grants. Well, we had such great ones at the beginning of the year, the first round in either March or April, that we blew through. We basically spent the $100,000 in the first round. So the school's foundation approved to set aside another $20,000 for this round of teacher grants, and we had 41 requests totaling $57,000 for this round of teacher grants. And again, that was great to see the teachers take the time and come up with their ideas of where they're asking for a little bit of help from the foundation. We didn't have $57,000 to award this time around, but they did. The foundation is going to move forward with 20 of them for about $20,000 for the extra. So that was great, and I think they are. I think they're going to look at potentially increasing that yearly budget to take into account the additional requests that we've been getting in. So I always love the grants, and had that a couple weeks ago, and hopefully we can get Lee here his next time and go through some of the more impactful ones that they fund. That's it.
Well, unfortunately, I was coaching soccer last Thursday, so I was not able to attend, but I do like those events. Look forward to this week's event at Papillion Vista High School. Just want to give a good shout out to all the athletes and activities participants for the fall sports and activities. A fantastic showing on Saturday by both Monarch and Titan bands. The Titan band was runner-up following their state championship last year, so that's some phenomenal consistency and high-level performance. And I know the Monarchs got numerous awards as well and superior ratings. So well done to both the instructors and participants in both bands, as well as cross-country wrapped up. A great showing by both Monarchs and Titans that made the state meet. And we're now into football playoffs, and again, both softball teams again made the state tournament. So I know we've got some plays and activities coming up shortly. So again, thanks to all that participate, and thanks to the community for supporting our student athletes and our activity participants. Seeing no further board comments, we will conclude item E and move on to item F under Section 2 Communications, Committee Reports, Building, Grounds, and Finance.
We have not met in the last 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you,
We will
Dr.
be meeting next week.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Tafoya. Human Resources and Student Services.
Human Resources Committee met this evening. We are gearing up for our contract negotiations with PLA, proving to be very collaborative so far, and we're looking forward to that. We're looking at ways for improving staff retention, and we're anxious to begin working and hearing the ideas from both teams. We did review the 2023-24 draft calendar. More information will be coming on that, and upcoming review and policy changes for the 8,000 and 4,000 series.
Thank you, Ms. Witt. And Curriculum and Americanism.
We did meet last week. We had some conversation around student achievement, discussed the future release of the state test scores, which at this time are still embargoed. We talked a little bit about the adoption of the new math standards by the State Board of Ed. We had an update on the ESSER 3 funds, and we also had a little bit of starting discussion on the IDEAL program. So it was a very packed meeting with lots of good topics for discussion. More to come on all of those items as we move forward.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. And if I'm not mistaken, I was going to mention that in my comments, but we did have some scores released today, correct? Emailed from the Department of Education. That was the national?
Yeah, National Assessment of Educational Progress, sometimes called the Nation's Report Card. We've had a chance to review those results, and we would be happy to brief the board on those. In general, Nebraska, I think, is going to fare very favorably to the rest of the country. Unfortunately, because of the nature of NAEP, we do not get district-level reports, only state-level reports.
Thanks for clarifying that. I had a few too many emails today, and I know I saw one and couldn't remember what scores it related to, so thank you. All right, that concludes item F under Section 2 Communications and concludes Section 2 Communications altogether. Moving on to Section 3 are action items. Item A are action by consent.
Approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Fisher and a second by Dr. Tafoya. Roll call, please. Yes.
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 Thank Thank you. Moving on to item B, the board meeting minutes of October 10th, 2022.
Make a motion to approve the board meeting minutes of October 10th, 2022 as written.
I have a motion by Mr. Bailey and a second by Mr. Madler. Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you. And our final item this evening under Section 3 action items, further discussion on our technology firewall. Mr. Bingham.
Thank you, Mr. Lotus and members of the board. In front of you is the results of an RFP we conducted this month that we discussed last meeting to replace the district's firewall hardware. We had 4 vendors participate and submit official bids in this process, and you can see the bid tabulation there on the second page attached to the summary sheet. Our vendors did a wonderful job providing us a lot of options to evaluate and look through. We're recommending going with a 5-year solution that we would be able to ideally bring in over the semester break and replace our current hardware. I think I went over this last time, but just a reminder, our current hardware was purchased and installed in 2016, so we're pushing a little over 6 years on that. We try to shoot for a 5 or 6 year useful life in this type of hardware. The funding source for this is the depreciation fund. Mr. Richards and I have had conversations about that. You may remember Mr. Lewis initiated that, and Mr. Richards has been super supportive of continuing it. There are 2 primary purposes for the depreciation fund. One is to sustain and maintain our one-to-one program, and the second is for purchases such as these. In the technology world, it's hard to continually have purchases that are flat every year. There's a huge gain in being able to purchase a product and buy the support and maintenance that's needed for that product up front. I estimate, and of course this is an estimation in good faith, that we would save between $30,000 and $40,000 on this purchase by committing to a 5-year maintenance and support agreement with it. And it's not something you want to just wash and change every so often, so it's certainly something you want to commit to. The manufacturers we had submitted are 2 of the top players in this arena. They're very well known, and we currently operate a FortiGate model, which is the model that was the lowest cost on the bid of the option we're looking at and asking for seeking approval on. So we're very confident that it'll be able to continue to serve us well going forward, should the board approve. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have on this.
Why the outlier in that one? I mean, all of them are fairly close except for the prime secured. That seems kind of...
Yeah, I can't speak to their pricing per se, but it's a different manufacturer, so I assume there's probably some differences in their pricing model. We certainly accept anything that met our bid specifications and requirements. They were the only reseller or vendor that proposed that manufacturer, so it may have something to do a little bit with competition as well. Those are just hunches, not for sure items, but yeah, great observation.
Lucas, it says the goal is to install over semester break. Is there a risk if that is not complete over semester break and you come back and it's not done?
Yeah, that's a great question. Risk is relative, I would say. We would be able to continue using our current hardware. It just wouldn't be ideal. So
Thanks.
yeah. And we did ask vendors to give us a potential lead time. We feel, based on the responses that we got, we would be able to meet that target.
Any further board comments, questions?
Sorry, I guess one more that I thought of. You said the existing hardware. What do we do with the existing hardware? Is it part of the quote then for them to remove it, or is it
Great question.
life completely useless and you got to junk it? What do you do with the existing
Great question.
hardware?
So in this market, in the firewall market, And actually, if you look on the breakout, the technical pieces, the hardware itself is not the expensive part. It's that ongoing maintenance support that you're really paying for. So it's not useful to anyone else. I don't want to say not useful. It's not as useful to anyone unless they're paying for that. And at 6 years, really approaching that 7th year, it's really at its end of life where the manufacturer's probably not going to be putting out updates and things to it anyways. So we certainly, with all of our hardware retirements, seek any residual value that might be in them. We put them out for, typically we get a lot, not lot in quantity, but a lot in terms of a bundle of our hardware that's been retired, and we put it out for proposal for people to buy, for companies to buy it, and then we'll take whoever will give us the highest dollar in residual value for that.
Appreciate it.
So it doesn't go directly to the scrapyard. But we are doing the install ourselves in-house, so it will be our team doing that work over the semester break. It's a good time to do it during that NSAA moratorium period when we can take the network down for a day and really focus and be able to get this accomplished. So
I'll make the motion to approve entering into a purchase agreement with Converge One to purchase firewall hardware and software in the amount of $457,955.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Madler and a second by Ms. Fisher. Any further board comments or discussion? All right, seeing none, seeing no public comment regarding this agenda item, roll call, please.
Yes.
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 thank you.
Thank you, Lucas. All right, that concludes Section 3 action items. Moving on to Section 4, discussion and information items for this evening. Item A is a discussion regarding the Para Conference 2022 that was held just a couple weeks ago. Welcome up, Mr. Bell. Dr. Settles, did you have any?
Yeah, you betcha.
Preempt.
Well, Mr. Bell is coming up. Just anxious for him to be able to share with you some information from this past Para Conference. This was our 5th year of starting Para Conference, and it's new and different every time with some old favorites brought back by the suggestions of our paras, but Mr. Bell will share with you. Thank you.
Well, good evening, superintendents, members of the board, Ms. Bronco. Super pumped to be here today to go over this with you guys. Just want to set the stage for you. I try to bring the energy with me that was there that day. Dr. DeFoy, I know you were there. Ms. Wood, I know you were there. So just want to set the stage for you. It was held October 10th from 8:30 to 12:30. Our theme this year was I Do It for the Kids. I know on the slide it says we do it for the kids. And then we threw out a challenge for our paraprofessionals this year over Para Power, which we took from Memorial Stadium. Of course, if you've attended a Nebraska game, they do the Husker Power. So we did Para Power, and we even opened the conference with the Para Power. I thought about bringing the signs tonight, maybe to get the left and the right going. I just didn't know if it was the stage for this tonight. So it was super exciting. So one of the things we had them do is we had them send a video in, and we didn't know how this would go. They're such busy people. We had 10 videos submitted. There are a couple tonight to show you later on, and then later this evening you'll receive a link to watch that entire video where each of our superintendents also had a message for each of them. So I'm going to jump right into this here. So I wanted to touch base first and foremost with how did we decide upon the sessions? So there's a lot of people involved in preparing for a paraprofessional conference. It's important to this district. It's important to all of our departments, all the way from our curriculum down to the HR. I know it comes out of the HR department, but it's much more, many more people involved in this process. So one of the things we looked at is strategic 2, goal number 2. Our mental health is a big piece that we look at. So we wanted to have sessions that related to that. So we invited guests that would maybe tie some of that stuff into it. The other one that is of importance to mention to you too is it also ties in our strategic goal number 3 on retaining and hiring staff, especially the retention piece. We know that creating positive environments for our paraprofessionals to be in is crucial, as well as that ongoing professional development. And not only we do 2 of these a year as a district level, but each of our buildings at a building level usually do about, on an average, a monthly meeting with our special education instructional paras. The sessions are offered up there to show you. I won't read them all to you. The ones highlighted in red were sessions that were required for our paraprofessionals to attend. So you'll see there's one up there that was conducted by Dr. Anderson, and it was all on the brain and the response to worry, stress, and anxiety, as well as we did have our facility proposal that was done by Mr. Richards and Dr. Rickley that day. So paras, they're able to sign up for classes of their choice, whatever they feel they're interested in, and they get 3 choices for that day. And the 4th session was the facility proposal. I wanted to also kind of give you guys a gauge on who presented that day. So you'll see here a couple of bullet points here of all the different people that presented and who was represented. I wanted to also give a shout out to our ESU 3. We had someone from that facility come out and join us to talk with our paraprofessionals on an introduction to autism awareness, which was super great to see. So we had lots of different people that presented on different sessions. We were more than happy to provide a list of those sessions, in particular who did those, if you'd be interested. Also want to capture a few pictures from that day. These definitely don't do it justice unless you were there, but there's a few pictures here. We did have a little competition with the challenge, and the winner of that was Bell Elementary this year. So you can see their picture at the top there. If you work your way in from the left there, the 3rd picture there. So they did. And then a couple of those pictures, we captured some of our presenters. We had lots of different sessions. As you can see, some were held in the main auditorium, some were in some of the smaller classrooms. So we felt it was a well-served, lots of people. We had upwards about 300 people that attended, give or take. So another part of what we do at the end of the survey is continuous improvement is so crucial at all levels in this district. One of the things we looked at is we want to always get better at what we're doing at these conferences. As Dr. Settle said, we've done this for several years, but we always want to strive to get better at what we do. So we did send out a rating to all of our paraprofessionals just on the 18th of October. It was an overall rating of 1 to 5. On an average, we came out at about a 4, which is good. I always feel there's room to improve. We asked them, rate your session. What did you feel, how your session went? What would you like to see at our next conference? And then what would you like to see come back again? So some of the results, as I said, overall, we had about a 4 out of 5. What would you like to see the next sessions? Safety strategies, advanced courses, and I'll elaborate a little bit on that. We felt like this is a really good one. Some of our more experienced paraprofessionals are wanting to do a little bit deeper dive into some of these subjects, which I felt was totally appropriate, considering we have some people in our district upwards to 35 years of experience in the district. So I looked at that kind of as sometimes when you take courses in college, it'll say prerequisite, you have to be with us for a certain amount or have to take this. So we're looking at maybe providing some deeper dives into some of those subjects. And then we had some understanding what is the difference between an IEP 504, and then what would you like to see offered again. One of the popular ones was understanding poverty and how it affects our students. We had a counselor out of Parkview Heights that presented on that. Dr. Anderson's brain class was very popular. Some of the feedback we got back on that one was we'd like it in a smaller session. So we talked to Dr. Anderson. I think she's happy to return in February to do that in some smaller sessions. And then sign language was one that people had some interest in seeing a little bit more on. So with that said,
we love our kids at La Vista West. We totally think they are the best. Don't be jealous, it's okay. Each building works in its own special way. La Vista West, La Vista West. Wolfpack, red and black, La Vista West.
So, of course, that was La Vista West. Again, we have 2 out of the 10 that we're going to show you. Then you'll have a link later to view the others. So that was La Vista West. And then our final one that we have for you tonight is right here coming out of Hickory Hill.
I do it for the kiddos. do it for the experience.
I do it for the aha moments.
I do it for the smiles, the hugs, the laughter, and there is never a dull moment.
I do it for the relationships with students and staff.
I do this for my Hickory Hill family.
We do it for the food day.
I do this for the relationship with our students.
I do it for the kiddos.
I do it for all the kids.
And with that said, I'm happy to take any comments, questions you guys might have at this time.
I felt the excitement, enthusiasm when they walked through the door. And, Mrs. Witt and myself were greeting them, and they were looking forward to the day, and I know they were not disappointed. I'd watched them as they were going through their procedures, and they were excited, very ready to learn and be a better pair so they can help the students. The session with Dr. Anderson is amazing. The way she took she reduced the brain down to the base, the limbic, and the cerebellum, and discussed the activity of all of them and how they integrate and how they help the student learn and the parts of it that interfere with the student's learning process. It was great. I've studied a lot about the brain. This is the first time I saw it so simple and so easy to understand. I made it complicated when I was in college, but now this was so much easier, and I'm thinking, my Lord, if I just thought of that when I was in school, that'd been so much, I could have had a lot more time to do other things.
Yeah.
But that was a great presentation. She's an excellent addition to our group.
Absolutely.
And the pairs are too.
Thank you.
I agree with Dr. Tafoya. It was a great experience, especially greeting them at the door, because they came in with their T-shirts and they were happy and looking forward to the day, it seemed. And I know that professional development is important at every level, from custodians to teachers to administrators and to board members even. So thank you for giving them the opportunity to network and meet one another from different buildings that they probably don't get to see very often, and showing that you value them by providing this experience for them twice a year now, right? And it was an excellent suggestions that they had up there. I thought those were great suggestions. It shows that they value the work they're doing and want to improve in what they're providing for our kiddos. So great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to say something that one of my bosses usually says, and that is, we're open for business. We'll gladly take all comers. We're always looking for outstanding staff, paraeducators in particular. Big shout out to Dr. Settles, Andrew, and the entire HR team for putting together another outstanding conference. Just two reminders to our community and our board, the good work that this HR team does. We opened this school year without a single teacher opening. That's a very different narrative than what we've seen across the metro, across the state, across the country, and that's not an accident. It's due no small part to the hard work of our staff. I'd also like to shout out Andrew Bell in particular. The number's not an exact science because of the FTE involved, but approximately 350 paras, I believe, is what we have when we're fully loaded, Dr. Settles. There were points in time last year, I think we were down as many as 50 paras, give or take. I believe the last time Dr. Settles briefed me on it, I think we were down perhaps 30 or less. We haven't cracked the code, but we have made outstanding progress in a labor market that, frankly, is very unforgiving. Particularly for $15 an hour positions. People are choosing us because they love kids and they love their communities, and for that we're deeply grateful. But again, Dr. Settles and Andrew and the HR team, thanks for your good work, and you are making a difference.
Yeah, we've brought on about 96 new paras this year, and a lot of that is some pretty typical turnover, as some of our previous paras we've now hired on as teachers and sub-teachers and things like that, but we're not done yet. That 30 is still 30 too many for us, but we're pleased with where we're at with that. Thanks, Mr. Bell.
All right, any further board comments, questions, discussion? All right, seeing no public comment regarding the para conference, we will conclude item A under section 4, discussion information items, and move to our final item B, the facility needs community engagement update. Welcome back, Ms. Simon.
Okay, so I'm going to start to trickle out the data as it comes in. Maybe. Did you shut this off, Andrew? Oh. Here's what's been done so far. We have the one community forum. We had 31 participants registered for that or attend that event. There were more than that in the audience, but most were staff and moderators and recorders and those sorts of things. So 31 individuals that we know came just for the event. We've done 18 staff presentations at different schools and departments throughout the district. We've completed 8 parent or neighborhood presentations, which included 37 participants, and all 8 of those together. And we've also presented at both high schools, booster clubs, their board members, which was about 50 participants. Upcoming engagement, and I think Dr. Brickley covered most of these, but we have lots of neighborhood presentations left. We've got the October 27th forum this Thursday, the Discovery Tour on the 28th. We have the Superintendent's Coffee on November 1st. And November 7th, we have the Facebook Live, and then we've got a whole string of online engagement opportunities as well that we're working on. And we might add another social media one depending upon how the Facebook Live goes. So these are all the slices of the pie that we're going to look at as you start to make a decision about what the next step is in this facility needs process. I think it's important to remember that every slice counts, but it's the whole pie that really matters. So it's each individual. So we're going to look at the individual pieces, and I'm going to share some of those with you here in a second. But it's really the completion of all the data that's really important. So feedback from staff. So far we've had 816 surveys completed. Some people don't fill out that average. They don't circle a number. So of those 816, 704 of them completed the rating. The average score from our staff so far on a 1 to 5 scale is 4.31. That includes feedback from 10 different elementary schools, all 5 secondary buildings, all of our district paras, our buildings and grounds staff, and our central office staff. So what did we find from those forms, from that group, from our staff? What did they say as the strengths? Safety and security, and you're going to see that as a common theme. Number one, most important aspect of this facility needs proposal is the safety and security projects. Also, super popular, and I see that as a theme also across different groups, is updating those older facilities to that standard of greatness, making sure that we don't have older rundown buildings that we're not addressing, but bringing all of our facilities up to that standard, particularly with the elementary groups, making those smaller classrooms larger. And I didn't just hear it at those buildings where that is happening, but heard it across all buildings. I think our elementary teachers just understand the importance of having that physically larger classroom. YATP, and I think that was one when we originally added that to this proposal, we weren't sure how it would play because proportionately it impacts a small number of students. But the YATP program is a program that people very much so appreciate the fact that we're doing that and appreciate the fact that we're building our own facility and getting out of the whole lease and building a facility that will truly meet the needs of that program. And then there's just this common theme, and I saw it at the forum the other night as well, that there's just people like the fact that it's a large number of projects that impacts the needs of a lot of students and staff throughout the district. So that is also seen as a strength. What are some of the things that we're seeing from our staff as concerns or suggestions for improvement? I would say, and I put that note at the top, we're not seeing huge concerns with the current projects. There's this person that likes that or doesn't like this and hit and miss, but not general themes. But we are seeing our suggestions for additions to the projects. Safety and security, and one of the things that we have asked our staff is to help us define what safety and security needs exist from their perspective as staff. I will say intercoms, door alarms, if doors are propped open, an alarm going off, more keyless entries, That's why doors are being propped open, is because it's not convenient for staff to get to their classrooms or wherever they're at. So doors get propped open. Fencing around playgrounds has been absolutely huge with our elementary staff. And then one that wasn't on my radar at all is that we have lots of, especially with our prototype at our elementary buildings, we have adjoining classrooms. And I guess the door between those two classrooms does not lock. And there were also examples at the secondary level of where they have an adjoining classroom and those doors don't lock. So that was one of the requests from staff. Huge issue for staff, more and updated staff and student bathrooms. I'm not sure that that was on our radar to begin with. We saw a little bit of that with the spring feedback stuff, but that's a biggie. And then, and this was primarily a high school issue. Actually, it was a secondary issue because I saw it on the middle schools as well, but just considerations for ideal. What do we need to be doing? And I know Ms. Siri is leading a process right now to really define that program and what exactly the future of that program looks like. Community feedback, this is from those neighborhood presentations that we did. So far we've had 37 surveys completed. Out of those 37, 32 did the rating. We have a 4.53 average score from those groups. That represents 8 different elementary schools. We've got 2 more of those tomorrow night. I think we have 3 more this week, and we've got them throughout the next couple of weeks. What do our parents and our community members see as strengths of the proposal so far? Again, safety and security and that updating of older facilities. And it wasn't just for those schools that are getting those updates, but schools like Carriage Hill Elementary, where they've already received those updates, understand the benefit of it and want the older schools in our facilities to be updated. And then again, that just diversity of projects, that there's a broad range of projects that are included in this proposal, and they like the projects as they're presented. What are some of the concerns or suggestions for improvement that we're seeing? People want more details on the safety. It also came up from our elementary parents as well about the fencing around playgrounds. They want more dollars for technology and more upgrades in their playgrounds. But again, I just want to note, I didn't see anything in the data that we'd collected so far from those neighborhood presentations that says there's any piece of the current proposal that shouldn't stay in there. Those suggestions weren't there. The community feedback, I will just say, disappointed with the turnout. Not exactly sure how to take that, if it's a trust and people just have read enough about the proposal and don't feel that they need to attend. Not sure exactly. I think hopefully over the next few weeks we'll get some clarification on what does that turnout mean. We had 31 people in attendance. We had 27 postcards. So someone had mentioned earlier that all those unanswered questions were getting answered. That will go back to those 27 individuals. It'll also be posted online for everybody to see as well. We only had 12 surveys submitted. I do think we lost some people. They got their surveys in the room, but the volleyball game had started and South was playing in the Metro Championship game. So I think we had some people that went the other way and didn't come back to the auditorium and fill out those surveys. The average score was 3.4. And then we also had them rate the forum on a 1.5 scale because I think that's really important. I think we always need to evaluate the process and say, is there something we should do better? And the rating of the forum itself and the format of the forum was a 3.9. We had 2 people that felt very strongly about wanting just that town hall format, an open mic. Without that, the rating would have been a 4.3. What did we see from strengths from our community forum feedback? Safety and security again. There was some discussion about the bullet resistance film. That I saw that across multiple groups and wanting a definition of exactly where that was going to be and what was it. Again, bringing those older schools up to standards. Interesting finishing kitchens. That was not necessarily on my radar as a strength. But that was a strength that was mentioned from several of our schools. The fact that the projects are very diversified, YATP was a strength, no levy increase was a strength, and then the baseball and softball improvements. I do think we had a strong baseball, softball contingency at that event. What were the concerns? One of the big groups, and this came up from multiple groups as well, but the fine arts area is the storage that we were planning enough storage. We may need even more storage, and do we need additional space in general for the fine arts area? Financial impact, there was one room particularly that was very concerned about the financial impact and just wanting more transparency in the dollars, which is great feedback, and we can certainly beef that piece up. We'll put that in the executive summary as we send the information back out, and we'll put that additional information on our website as well. There was several comments in relation to the dollars of the needs versus wants, and prioritizing some of the projects, what are true needs and what are just nice to haves, and wanting us to define that a little bit clearer. Some concerns about the timing with the economy being what it is right now, and is this really a good time? And then wanting that long-range projection of what exactly is going to happen with that bond fund tax levy. Concerns, baseball, softball complex, and I don't say that as a concern. It didn't surface as a concern in terms of not wanting it included, but in wanting more specifics about what it was. What exactly are the plans for the baseball, softball complexes? Several comments and concerns about when two of those complexes are owned by the cities, how does that work, and does it have to be exactly what the cities want, and we can only do that on our school-owned facilities? Just some questions more than anything, and I think we can absolutely answer some of those questions in the executive summary when we send that back out. Growth numbers was an issue. Do we need to adjust boundaries? We have some room in some schools. Some of our schools are crowded. Should we just shift boundaries away around potentially busing students from one school to another? And just more explanation on that RSP study. Where exactly are the growth areas? Are we thinking through that? Timeline, so that's all the summary. Timeline, we're still the November 14th meeting. We'll go through some more data with you that we've collected between now and November 13. We'll start to finalize the formal survey. Sorry, typo there. Start to finalize the plans for that formal survey. At the November 28th meeting and the December 9th meeting, or November 28th through December 9th, we'll conduct the formal survey, and then at your December and January meeting, we'll do the final summary of all the data, including the results from that formal survey, as well as the results from the rest of the data that we've collected. Questions, thoughts? January 23rd is when you need to take action on your next steps. Questions, thoughts, any surprises? I know several of you were there. You sat in rooms and listened to the discussion. Any surprises or questions about the data?
No real surprises, but I do appreciate you had the comments up there about the softball, baseball, because there was a lot of concern I heard over if these are city-owned fields, what kind of guarantees are there? What's the expectation from the district side? What's the expectation from the city side? So I do think that is something I heard a lot about. Overall, though, having been there, great comments from people, great questions asked. It was really, I found it to be very invigorating. Even though it was a small amount of people, I found it very invigorating that we had people there that truly wanted to share with us their thoughts about the process, the projects, and just the overall potential for a bond. So it was good. You know, we as board members just sit and listen. We don't engage in the conversation, which, as I've said oftentimes, is really, really, really hard to do, especially when you just want to clarify something. But sitting back and just listening, I at least the room I was in, I was really pleased, just the great conversation that was had. So.
The softball, baseball question. Mr. Richards and I have met with the city of La Vista twice, including as recently as this morning where we met with Mayor Kindig. We've met with the city of Papillion twice, including at least one member of council. We have a clear vision for what we would like to do with baseball and softball for both campuses. The limiting factor, of course, is we don't get to make decisions for the two city councils. So we're going to continue to work that process, but we're very confident that we'll get where we need to go.
I appreciate all the discussion on the safety and security, especially in light of what happened today in St. Louis with the school shooting there, another one. So I'm sure that'll continue to be a very hot topic as we continue this process over the next a month or so. So that didn't surprise me at all. And like I said, I have a feeling we'll see more.
I do think we need to work to continue to define exactly what safety and security stuff is included in it.
I'd say on the safety and security, one of the comments in our room was, it seems like safety and security is on, every bond. So what is this different than the prior ones? And I know, we don't make changes to all the elementary schools in one bond because there's a lot of elementary schools, right? So maybe just talking about some of the elementary schools have been updated in the prior ones, but we just got to get those other ones for the safety and security with it going through the office updated into the rest of the building. So that was one comment that I did hear on the in my group. And I also want to say I thought it was great conversation, and everyone was respecting each other and the facilitator, even though there's some differing opinions and people had different priorities. But I was happy how it turned out.
Yeah, I definitely think as I was reading through the data, I was making myself notes about just some things that I think we need to clarify from a communication standpoint, and that was one of them. Absolutely.
Any other board comments, questions, discussion? Not. Thank you so much for all the data, and you and your team for compiling all of the data and continued data to come in.
There's more coming.
All right, seeing no further board comments nor any public comments regarding the facility needs community engagement update, we'll conclude item B under section 4 discussion and information items. Moving on to our final section, section 5, our future board calendar. Again, as noted numerous times this evening, October 27th, 2022, this Thursday, the next community forum in regards to the facility needs projects at Papillion La Vista High School at 6 p.m. Again, as mentioned earlier, 90-minute session, 6 to 7:30 at Papillion La Vista High School on Thursday. November 1st, 2022, a liaison lunch at Liberty Middle School with Dr. Tafoya. November 4th, 2022, no school for elementary students. It is the Elementary Staff Development Day. November 7th, 2022, the Facility Needs Facebook Live event at 6 p.m. November 11th, 2022, a liaison lunch at my alma mater, Papillion La Vista High School, with myself at 11:30. And finally, November 14th, 2022, the next Board of Education meeting at 6 p.m. here at the central office.
Before you adjourn, the community forum at PLHS, what part of the building is that going to be held in that might help people get to that forum?
It's a really good question, Ms. Fisher, and I'm looking at Ms. Imond for some help here.
The presentation will be in the auditorium,
Okay.
and then we're using the classrooms as close as we can get to the auditorium.
Okay, thank you.
So
I did have someone ask that.
It would actually be, and we'll put signage up like we did, but that's a great point. When we send out messages this week with reminders, we'll make sure that we clarify that as well, to park in the front. So if they can park in that south parking lot,
Yeah.
it would be helpful, because then they could enter the auditorium doors.
Thank you, because I did have a couple of people ask that question, so thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Great clarification. All right, seeing no further business before this board, I'll adjourn the Papillion La Vista Community Schools Board of Education meeting for October 24th, 2022 at 7:22 p.m. Thank you all.